So buyer's remorse is a thing where a person will purchase something, usually expensive, and then after they buy it, they're like, "Oh, why did I get this? This is a mistake." That could be a car, that could be a house. Even sometimes we'll get food and just think maybe we should have purchased some other meal somewhere that was cheaper, or we don't really like the taste of it. It happens. But I've noticed a pattern where I'm now starting to see buyer's remorse when it comes to the people that someone will choose to talk to, and it's getting a little out of hand. Back over the summer, I did a video about Discord women, and the main antagonist of the video was this lady that I had a good dialogue with. We shared some revealing stuff, one way or the other, and it was followed by her blocking me a few days later for saying that I missed her, and then later on she tried to retcon it and say it because I wrote her some poem. Um, I didn't include in the video the clip where she said that because I said to her, you liked me a few, some days ago, some weeks ago, what happened? Uh, no one liked you. And I was like, well, why would you accept a friend request from someone that you didn't like? Oh well, you kept saying to accept it, and you basically her implication is that by pressing her on accepting my friend request, I forced her to accept it. Now this is a lady that lives in another country. I live in the United States. I have no way of making through my computer her perform the function of accepting something that she doesn't want to accept. It's total nonsense. But I realized that this is a way of having buyer's remorse, right? Oh man, this is a person I spoke to, and I decide I'm going to now turn on them, but I can't be accountable for the fact that I willfully chose to sit in some call with them or them and a few other people for usually several hours on end and put them on my friend list for however many days. So now I have to try to dodge being accountable for the fact that I initiated something with a person I now regret by saying that they made me do something by effectively giving them more power than they actually have. Because if I was so powerful and I could force her to accept my friend request, she would have never blocked me in the first place. I wrote this off as kind of like an isolated incident, but about 2 or 3 nights ago, I was in this call with several people, about six. And people have different time zones, different schedules, so it starts to dwindle in its numbers until it's just me and this one girl, and we have I think it's a nice dialogue for about an hour until she falls asleep. People sometimes do that when they're on these different sites. But I thought it was nice. I thought we had a good time. Complimented her here and there, and later on, in a few days later, I am tipped off to the fact that she has begun speaking to this other lady I spoke to on the same server, and the other one, the second one, not the one I had to call with, is like, "Oh, you were flirting with her." It's like, okay, whatever. Then later on, tries to, I guess, go around and spread this word that I'm like preying on these girls in this, and I'm like, what? Because again, it doesn't make sense to say that I'm like forcing people to speak to me, especially if when you're on a social media site, you have the option to be in a call, to get out of the call, to especially on like Discord, you can mute someone, you can block someone, and so later on, I speak to this person she is attempting to speak on behalf of, and she's like, "Oh, I felt uncomfortable, and I wanted to tell you this, but I was afraid that you would blow up on me." Or and as I'm sitting here reading this crap, I'm thinking about how you have a person who says that they were uncomfortable speaking to me or in the way I spoke or whatever the hell, and yet spoke to me all the way up until they fell asleep. Now, you would think if someone is truly uncomfortable talking to someone, they're going to, the second they hear that thing that would make them uncomfortable, either say something about it or just leave the call. Sat there with me for over an hour. And many, many minutes after these supposedly so uncomfortable sounding things were said. Uh, but the part where she says, "I'm sorry I didn't come out right and tell you that I didn't want to be friends, but you creeped me out so bad that I was scared you'd freak out or something." This is again that same cyber buyer's remorse where you don't want to talk to this person anymore, but you don't want to be accountable for the fact that you know may have made a mistake in trying to talk to them or trying to befriend them. So you have to put ownership of the fact that this is going in a way that you don't like on them. You have to make them more powerful than they actually are. So if you listen to her, if you read these statements, you're thinking, oh man, he must know her in real life. He must have some way of getting back at her. She's so intimidated and afraid of him. But then you remember, wait a second, she's in another side of the country and he's, you know, over in whatever. He doesn't know her in real life. He doesn't know any way of contacting her. So why exactly is she so terrified? Again, cyber buyer's remorse. It is it's really sad that we live in this feminist era, right, where people, if you know, if they're a certain gender, can basically you know, lie on someone and not be accountable for the things they do. Because I have proof that she was asking me to turn my camera on and again invited me to this call with only a few people, and even after most of them left after the first like half hour, still sat in that call with me for over an hour. uh but what I just can't get over is that people like these chicks, they want you to believe that I have these special abilities where I can force them to speak to me sometimes for a few hours, a few days, a few weeks. But and then I guess through the sheer strength of their will, they're finally able to break free of whatever supposed control I have over them. And it's sad because it's like, you know, if you just want to sit here and talk to people, right? You know, maybe things don't go the way you want. Maybe people, you know, like whatever. But it is the inference or the idea rather that when they choose to speak to you and then no longer want to do that, they feel compelled to blame you for making them either initiate this or, you know, do something that they're now attempting to express regret over. um, it's just another example of how people in this era are, they're just really good at lying. They're really good at, again, not being accountable for the things that they do, because I've had people that I've had falling outs with and didn't want to talk to anymore. And you would never in a million years see me say, well, I accepted this guy's friend request because I was scared that he would get mad at me if I didn't. And I told him I still wanted to be friends, even though I actually didn't, because I thought he was going to freak out on me. You don't see that word, especially about computer people, because you know a lot of jobs they have, you know, like the whole HR thing with where you'll have some, you know, woman who will say, "Oh, this guy I work with makes me uncomfortable, but I need the money from the job." And, da, da, da. And I've always said they're full of crap, because a lot of them will report somebody and then still work with the person for weeks or months afterward. And if you're so terrified, you would think you'd want to get the hell away from the person that makes you so afraid. But at least with that, you can you know make the argument of they're like in a, they don't choose to be around that specific person, right? And that they're in a situation that causes them to have to deal with them or be around them. With these girls, they come online, they join these servers, where there's a whole, usually more men than women. That's the way that the gender breakup is. And they go into these calls, sometimes with a lot of people, sometimes with a few people, and they talk to these guys for sometimes a few minutes, a few hours, and then afterward try to act like somebody is doing something to them when this is stuff that's preventable. All they have to do is just mute the person, block the person, leave the server. I mean, they have really tried to convince people that when they go online and there's some guy they don't want to talk to anymore, I don't know what I can do to get away from him. It is sad, man. because I picked up on this pattern like over the course of the last couple of months, just from my different dealings with these, oh so lovely Discord women. And it's sad if you want to just go on there and have a genuine conversation with someone where, the two people talk, and nice little dialogue, and maybe if it doesn't work out, you just don't talk to each other, but you don't have to like try to destroy the other person or make them sound like they're so evil and horrible. uh you're more likely to find a four-leaf clover than one of them that can just do that courtesy. It is they're just another sign of why the times are so bad. Like, I've had days where I just will sit here and like go to work, and that'll be my sum total of interaction with people. And that's because like a lot of people are just not worth speaking to, and they do stuff like this. Why bother with them? But yeah, this is the new trend, cyber buyer's remorse, where if you listen to, like, I'm just like, from my vantage point, I'm just a person that goes on that site, other sites. If people want to talk to me, they can block me, they can unfriend me, whatever, whatever. But if you listen to them, I am one of the most powerful superhumans who has these like telepathic abilities that can force someone to like me or talk to me for a duration of time. And if you want to get away from me, you couldn't do it sooner, because my powers are so persuasive. This also means that when you join calls with me, even ones where it's just you and I, you sit there for over an hour after being supposedly uncomfortable, because my abilities are just so strong. It is insane. Well, I guess that's the perfect sentence to describe the modern era's crop of people to talk to.